Elon Musk said he has lined up $46.5 billion to fund his bid for Twitter. So this is answering the biggest question that had loomed over his takeover offer. So in a regulatory filing, Mr. Musk also said he was considering taking his offer straight to Twitter shareholders, bypassing a board that appears dug in. Twitter said Thursday it was reviewing the newly detailed proposal, the financing commitments, about half in bank debt and half in cash promised by Mr. Musk himself, lending credibility to what had until now looked more like a personal lark than a bona fide takeover play. When he lobbed in his bid last week, Mr. Musk didn't say how he planned to pay for the deal, which is expensive even for the world's richest man. Now, he says he has lined up $25 billion in debt from a group of banks, including Morgan Stanley, Bank of America Corp., and Barclays PLC. About half is secured by his shares of Tesla Incorporated, which would require him to pledge more than one third of his $170 billion stake. Mr. Musk will personally commit $21 billion in equity, and basically, this deal is making the equivalent of a down payment on a home. So, people familiar with the matter said Mr. Musk is still considering bringing in potential equity partners and has had conversations with some. The extra $3.5 billion his offer for Twitter stock comes to roughly $43 billion, likely accounts for the company's outstanding bonds, which might have to be repaid, and the hundreds of millions of dollars in fees that will go to Wall Street banks if the deal gets done. Twitter shares were little changed midday Thursday. They have been trading well below Mr. Musk's offer of $54.20 per share, a sign that investors are skeptical. So Twitter is still likely to reject his bid, which he described as best and final, in the coming days, people familiar with the matter said. But the financing commitments could pressure the company to negotiate. They stand in contrast to the last time Mr. Musk flirted with buying a public company. In 2018, he tweeted he had funding secure to take Tesla private. No money or formal bid materialized, and U.S. prosecutors later determined he never had it lined up. And he said Thursday he is considering launching a so called tender offer, a direct offer to shareholders that sidesteps the board, in a series of not so cryptic tweets. Blank is the night and love me tender blank, he has hinted as much in recent days. That effort would be complicated by a defensive move that Twitter's board made last week. It adopted a poison pill, a legal maneuver that prevents Mr. Musk from amassing more than 15% of the company by offering every other investor cheap shares that would dilute his stake. Mr. Musk is a Twitter power user with over 82 million followers and a long history of espousing his views on everything from space travel to cryptocurrencies. And in January, he began buying Twitter stock, becoming the single largest individual investor with a more than 9% stake by April. And since then, he has been using his Twitter account to criticize the company, especially its approach to content moderation, which he believes impedes free speech. Still unknown is whether other suitors might emerge for Twitter. The Wall Street Journal reported last week that private equity firms, including Apollo Global Management Incorporated and Thoma Bravo LP, are kicking the tires, and corporate suitors, including Walt Disney Company and Salesforce, have made bids in the past. But the fact that nearly every global blue chip investment bank is participating in Mr. Musk's bid, except for the two, Goldman Sachs Group and JP Morgan Chase, advising Twitter in its response, suggests there isn't a rival bidder waiting to surface, meaning that financially speaking, this is probably Twitter's best option if they're trying to be responsible to their shareholders. Feel free to give your thoughts on this. I think it's pretty interesting. And I think it'd be kind of cool to see someone like Elon Musk end up actually buying Twitter. I think that'd be pretty cool. By the way, if you want to learn how to get out of debt and master your money, go to 40inbox.com.